Hey guys, I'm Constance Cole, and this is my interpersonal communications project for hsco 508B05 at Liberty University. Today is Sunday, October the 11th, 2020. When I want to go to the next slide, I'll just say next slide. So we're going to start out with the title slide, so we'll go to the next slide. Communication is hard. It's very difficult. Some of the strengths that I have that I found in myself is that I'm a people person. I am caring, I'm smart, but some of my needs are that I'm an overthinker and I'm a talker. Next slide. So my plan, I want to be more present in conversations. I want to practice active listening. I want to value others more. I want to listen better. I want to add to the conversations and not take away from the conversation. And I want to be aware of the communication barriers that I have to be able to overcome those and overcome those. And I think a lot of the things that I've learned throughout this course will help me to overcome those. Next slide. I want to live out James 1:9. The English Standard Version says, "Know this, my beloved brothers, let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger." I want to really live that verse out in my life. Next slide. Some of my background is I'm a talker. I've been a talker from an early age. I love to talk. I'll talk to anything that listens, even if it doesn't want to listen, I'll talk to it. I've always been a helper and a little mama. I've enjoyed nurturing and loving and raising children, and whether they would be my siblings or my own children, I've really enjoyed that. And I get it from my mom. My mom is a talker. She loves to talk, and we love to have conversations together. Next slide. So the Uniquely You profile that I completed, how I see myself, it resulted in that SC, or the steady competent type, and how others see me resulted in the CIS, or the competent influencing specialist type. A little bit more about those types will be found in the next slide. So next slide. This is expected of me. Carbonella in the text, How to Solve the People Puzzle, says that characteristics of this type of personality are that people tend to be withdrawn and not so much outspoken, but they're balanced between people and task skilled, that they're steady and stable, that they're the rock of their communities and they're the rock of their friend group or work group, that they're helping and caring, that they do what they're told. They're open-minded and sensitive and able to handle conflict well. And I think that I fit into a lot of those characteristics. I'm very much a rule follower. I don't tend to be as outspoken as I used to be when I was younger. I'm kind of more shy and more reserved now that I'm older. Next slide. Carbonella also says in that same How to Solve the People Puzzle that the CIS type, some of the characteristics of those are that they're inspiring and impressing, that their emotions are up and down, that they're friendly and compliant, that they're research and investigative, and that they have good people skills. I think a lot of these apply to me as well. So I like to know what I'm talking about. I like to research and to be knowledgeable about the things that I'm talking about when I'm talking about them. My emotions sometimes do go up and down, and I like to be impressing. I like for others to think that I was inspiring and impressing. Next slide. Some of the communication barriers that I have are, my two main ones are interrupting and overthinking. Interrupting, I think I do that because I get nervous in conversations. I think that I'm helping the conversation. I want to add to that conversation, and I don't do it with intention or ill malice. I do it. I don't think before I speak a lot of the times. But I do have noticed that throughout this text and throughout this course, that is a real communication problem for me and barrier for me. And also overthinking. I overthink so many things. I overthought this project. I care too much what other people think. I want to do it right. I want to follow the rules. I want to be that rock that people can rely on. And I'm a people pleaser. I want to be a people pleaser. I want others to accept me and like me. And I think that's why I overthink things. Next slide. So my goal to help with this is I want to step out of my comfort zone and listen to hear, not to react. I want to ensure that the speaker in conversations that I participate in is respected, that they are appreciated, and that they are truly heard. Next slide. how am I going to achieve this? Some of the strategies that I have to achieve this goal are to interrupt or to pause, reflect, and respect, to listen attentively, to value the speaker. And Schultz and Basinski said in our Essential Guide to Interpersonal Communications text that listening is attending to reality. I want to attend to that reality. I want to be in that moment and be in that conversation. Overthinking, some strategies that I have for that are just to breathe, to relax and let go, to know that I'm enough. I found an article entitled Finding the Golden Mean, the Overuse, Underuse, and Optimal Use of Character Strengths. I want to use those character strengths that I have from my personality profile to help me and not to hinder me. So they said in their article, when a character strength is misused, it becomes a negative trait. That article really talked about really how to use those strengths that we have in our personality as a strength and not have them as a burden to us. So I do want to plan that out as well. Next slide. What's next? How do I apply that? How do I implement that into my life? So Schultz and Basinski also said in the Essential Guide to Interpersonal Communication that we can't become good listeners until we first acknowledge how difficult it is. So throughout this course, we have learned so many things on how to listen better, how to talk better, how to communicate better. I want to utilize all of those skills in my conversations to help me and assist me to become a better listener. I want to listen attentively and with purpose. And then France and Weichel in the Helping Skills for Human Service Workers said that create a warm and welcoming environment by maintaining eye contact, smiling, and having an open posture. I want to be able to create that warm and welcoming environment in my conversations so that the speaker is more open and able to communicate with me, and then I'm more able to communicate with them as well. Next slide. A few things of how I'm going to do that is I'm going to practice that active listening. So an article I found in the Western Journal of Communications entitled The Role of Active Listening in Informal Helping Conversations lists some of the nonverbal and verbal ways that you can help with active listening. So some of the verbal ways is paraphrasing, reflecting feelings, checking assumptions, and asking questions. Some of the nonverbal ways is those head nods and those eye contact, forward body leans that reflects that psychological distance of closeness, being empathetic. I think those things are all really good ways to practice those active listening skills. Next slide. I also want to practice the TLC or the talker and listener, like with the talker and listener cards. Realize where my stomach and my head and my heart all feel into my conversations. That way I can react with appropriate ways to react instead of interrupting. Recognizing the roles and the boundaries of the conversation and appreciate and respecting those. And really taking that TLC, that talker and listener card that Mr. Patterson uses in his Why Don't We Listen Better book. Alrighty, next slide. So, listening is a hard thing. It's very difficult to do. I want to be more like Jesus and listen like he listened and react in love like he does. I want to recognize my shortcomings and know how to utilize my strategies and become a better listener. And a lot of the Bible verses we find things like that on there. So Proverbs 18:13 says, if one gives an ear an answer before he hears, it is his own folly and shame. I don't want to be like that. Romans 10:17 says, so truth comes through hearing, and hearing through the word of Christ. I want that hearing through the word of Christ. Next slide. I want to remember Jesus' intentions. We must listen to others like Jesus would listen, with respect, gratitude, and value. And Luke 11:28 says, blessed rather are those who hear the word of God and keep it. That's how I want to listen. Thank you so much.